moving into the heavyweight division again, two guys that are competing under the UFC's banner, one who's been knocked out by Francis Ngannou. Curtis Blaydes is on a couple of fight win streak. He's looking pretty good. He's trying to get his name reinserted back into title contention. He thinks he's a good matchup for Jon Jones because of the grappling prowess. He's taken on Sergei Pavlovich. Now, the thing about Curtis Blaydes is he beats everybody who's not a really heavy-handed power puncher. Unfortunately for him, Sergei Pavlovich is on a 5-fight knockout streak, and that includes one against the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, and Tai Tuivasa. So Pavlovich has proven that he's got some heavy hands, and what he lacks maybe in the grappling department against Blaydes, he's going to make up for with the power. So how do you see this one going?
I think this is a great matchup for the heavyweights. They need it, and Jon Jones and Stipe just can't seem to get it right. I don't know what the exact situation is, if they have a date, if they've kicked it down the road a little bit longer, if they don't have a date, if they haven't agreed on whatever. But we do eventually need to see Jon Jones get in there and fight again soon. He didn't have any sort of issues with Cyril Gane. That he got out unscathed, and we would like to see Jon Jones more active. And I think that Stipe and him are just too busy with all the extra stuff, and we're never going to see them fight. And, now we've got ring rust we've got to talk about with Stipe, and Jon Jones probably still didn't get all the rust off of him after that long layoff because he came in and made such short work of Cyril Gane. So I think this is a number one contenders matchup. I saw Pavlovich in person, and the guy couldn't possibly be bigger. He's one of those guys that likely has to duck down to get between doorways, and I guess Curtis is probably the same, but this guy looks crazy. Like, Sergei Pavlovich is probably one of the scariest humans I've ever seen in person, and he has champion written all over him. I could see him being a nightmare matchup for everybody, including Jon Jones at heavyweight. And Curtis Blaydes has obviously had some issues with getting his hand raised against some of the best guys at heavyweight, but stylistically, he's a nightmare for a lot of people there. And as long as he can stay away from really big power punchers who can just shut the lights off with one shot, then he usually has a pretty good chance at winning. And not only is his grappling way better than almost everybody in the heavyweight division, but his striking's looking really good these days. So while I can say the same thing about Curtis Blaydes with seeing both of them become champions at some point, I am leaning towards Sergei Pavlovich to get his hand raised in this one. There's just something about this guy. I think what he's bringing in, the confidence and the skills and the streak that he's on, is going to carry him right through Curtis Blaydes. And Curtis is always going to be meaningful in the heavyweight division, but I think this guy Pavlovich is onto something, and we could see him in a title fight very, very soon.
Yeah, I'm picking Pavlovich as well. I think he's got good enough grappling to get back up. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think Curtis will get him down a time or two, and Sergey will have to use some energy and work his way back up. But eventually, those power punches that he likes to throw in combination are going to make themselves known, and it's going to show up on Curtis's face, and he's going to eventually get the finish, because Curtis's Achilles heel, as I said earlier, is the power puncher. Yeah. And Sergey is not only a power puncher, he's a precise puncher, and he throws in combination. Yeah. So that's a very deadly combination for Curtis Blaydes when that happens to be your Achilles heel. And I, like you, think that Pavlovich has champion written all over him. He's a big guy. He's a stoic guy. He's almost like a Fedor a little bit. Even a newer and improved version of Fedor. Obviously, he'll have to get the belt and have some wins before he can make that claim. But he seems to have all the makings, and the fact that he's only 30 years old. We talk about 30 being the prime of your career as at the lower weight classes. But as you start to get to heavyweight, light heavyweight, 30's just scratching the surface. 32, 35, those are the really good years for heavyweight fighters. And he's just now getting into that realm. And to be as good as he is already, I think he's going to be a nightmare for a lot of people. And as you said, including Jon Jones. If he were to get in there with Jon right now, I would pick Jones to win. 2 years from now, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Who knows if Jon sticks around. Also, Jon's dedication is something to come into question, because he has to want something. The last couple of defenses at light heavyweight were lackluster. Arguably Dominic Reyes beat him in that fight, and even if you think Jon won, it was a razor close fight. But Jon showed us just after 3 years how hungry he was again, going in there and making quick work of Cyril Gane. But if they do make the Stipe fight and he gets Stipe out of there, the greatest heavyweight of all time, it's okay, is he dedicated again? Is Jon like, okay, what more is there for me? And he has a 6 month or a year period where he takes off and he's not dedicated. And then somebody like a Pavlovich is in the gym every day just improving. Well, that could get very interesting. So it's going to be fun to see. Curtis does think he's got stylistically the right matchup for Jon. And Jon's not a one-punch knockout kind of guy. Jon's an accumulative sort of fighter. He does have power, but it's not the Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou power. And Curtis has got the grappling to match him. So I think the number one contender will come out of this fight. And if the Stipe-Jon fight just can't happen for whatever reason, they need to put the winner of this fight in there with Jon Jones next, and sign me up because that'll be a good one.
Absolutely, and they definitely will. And when I saw Pavlovich, he was in there just as a alternate.
Yeah.
When he was in Vegas. So I think that this is for sure for the number one contenders match, and likely if it ends early and whoever wins goes out unscathed, we could see a quick turnaround. They could say, all right, you guys don't want to do business. Stipe, if it's your fault, then we're just going to take Jon and we're going to put him in there with the winner of this fight. And we could see, by International Fight Week or, sometime in the late summer, we could see these guys square off. And I'd really love to see it happen. I think Jon Jones would give a lot of problems from Curtis Blaydes because Curtis is going to be looking to shoot, but everybody forgets because of how good Jon is everywhere, just how legit he is as a wrestler and a grappler. That would be a very fun matchup for me. And I think Pavlovich has everything you need to become a champion. It's very difficult to beat Jon Jones, but Pavlovich does seem like he's operating on a different level, and I'd love to see him in a title shot soon because I feel like he'll be able to rise to the occasion and give us definitely an interesting fight.
Most definitely.